Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and I'm here with one last card this month using the January 2021 Kit of the Month. I'm doing some fun double layer embossing and a little bit of background stamping, some ink blending, just using 2 colors of distress ink. I've started off by pulling off that fun large floral heart image from the kit. And I've also pulled out a larger sentiment. I'm going to stamp this using my MISTI on some white cardstock. I'm going to use 2 different kinds of ink for this. I'm starting with just clear embossing ink, and I'm going to start by stamping that heart. I'm going to stamp it multiple times with my MISTI just to make sure it's super well inked up and I have a really good solid coverage there of that image. And then I'm going to layer the sentiment directly over, kind of carefully planning it before I set it down. Then I'm going to stamp it with black pigment ink. This is VersaFine ONYX black. It's one of my favorite black. It's also heat embossing friendly. So the reason I did these both together before I heat embossed is now I can sprinkle clear embossing powder over the whole image, and it's going to stick both to that heart, the floral heart image that I stamped with the clear embossing ink, and also over that sentiment that I stamped in black. So it's going to allow me kind of a 1-layer look with both things, but to do some emboss resist with distress inks over the top. I went ahead and heat set that entire image all at the same time. Also adds a nice shine to the words there in the black ink, that take care. I love that effect as well. All right, now I've pulled out fossilized amber and peacock feathers distress ink, and I'm using blender brushes, kind of my favorite way to do ink blending. You could use foam blenders or anything else as well. And I started off with that fossilized amber, and I'm trying just to kind of go across the top, mostly across the flower part of that image. Originally, I thought I was going to do green on the bottom, but I kind of like that more of a teal effect with the peacock feathers. So I decided to blend that along the bottom just for a bit of a fun, different look. And it's such a great color combo that I love using it together. Okay, as we finish off this ink blending, once I finished, I'm kind of being careful not to overlap the color too much and blend it. And then I'm using a microfiber cloth just to kind of wipe any excess ink off of that embossing powder. And it just kind of make sure that that has a nice crisp white and no stray ink is sticking. I'm going to use scissors to go ahead and fussy cut this out. And I'm intentionally, I can't cut perfectly enough to make a perfectly smooth heart. So I'm purposely kind of following the image there, the little bit of variation around the heart. So it's kind of an abstract heart a little bit of rough edges, but I felt like that looked better than trying to make it perfect and probably failing worse by doing that. All right, I love that kind of abstract image from the kit too. So I decided I want to go ahead and use that as well. It's just a great background filler. It kind of almost reminds me a little bit of the pattern of a sweater. If you look close at it, you can kind of see that knit stitch. So I lined that up on my clear block to make sure that that was facing correctly up so it wouldn't look odd when I stamped it on there. I used that same, I'm going to use the same distress inks that I used for my ink blending just to kind of make the image cohesive. And you might notice I grabbed the yellow to stamp down in that bottom corner. So I'm kind of alternating so it's not all matchy-matchy with all the yellows in the top and the blues on the bottom. So I did the yellow on the bottom, and then I'm going to use that peacock feathers for the top left corner. And I just felt like that was a little more of a cohesive look. So it kind of drew your eyes back between the blue and different areas. And you can kind of see there, I played a little with how I was going to arrange it. And I also switched between the top and bottom of that image. You might notice there it's a little smaller than my stamp block, or my stamp block's a little smaller than the stamp image, but that worked since I was only using part of that image in each part. All right, I felt like it still needed a bit of texture, so I used those exact same distress inks again, smooshed them on a clear block, added a little bit of water, and then used those just to add a few little splatters kind of over their respective areas. So it just added a little bit more of a whimsical feel to it, so it wasn't quite as stark on the background, and kind of felt like it pulled it together even just a little bit more. All right, that doesn't take very long to dry, so I'm going to add my foam adhesive on the back of that heart right away and go ahead and adhere that in place. I chose foam adhesive just because I thought that little bit of dimension was kind of a fun touch. It wasn't necessary, but I like that little bit of dimension. You also might notice I'm a firm believer in lots of foam adhesive. I like to make sure when I stick things down, they hold nice and sturdy. You don't have to use that much. You could use just dots of foam adhesive, but if I'm going to send a card, I want it to hold together well. All right, I'm finishing off there with just a few enamel dots. These are from PinkFresh Studio. You could also use Nuvo drops or sequins or anything else. And I kind of played with which direction, and I ended up coordinating those with the background color. I just felt like it added that tiny last bit of texture that it needed there. And there you go, nice and simple. This card is done. Thanks so much for coming by today. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.